and what are sort of the societal, climatological, and health parameters that come together to cause disease outbreaks. And to do this, we are proposing to use a novel interdisciplinary approach where we seek to use a rich trove of information mined from British colonial documents. These are administrative documents that have been preserved in archives for over 2 centuries. And there is a very good set of information about the societal, environmental, as well as disease outbreaks that we would like to combine with records of climate history, environmental change, particularly water quality, to see what factors might be associated. So some of the key steps here would be sort of mining the British documents or the colonial documents, so developing object recognition softwares that can mine these texts for demographic, health, social, economic, and climate information, and then map that mined information onto climate and environmental reconstructions. And that would allow us to then benchmark current hypotheses against these sort of long-term, which we call long jury analysis, to identify some of the key questions that are listed under the outcomes. So some of the impacts and the outcomes really is that, is there a link between climate shifts, disease outbreaks, and disease burden? Understanding natural and societal factors and public health information that might underpin some of these large disease outbreaks, and possible interventions that may or may not have worked. Which groups are at risk and why would they be at risk? Are those historical reasons? Are those more contemporary reasons? And more of a analytical method development, as in mining and the analysis of these kinds of things. And we situate our project in some of the areas of global south, particularly the Indian subcontinent, which has seen multiple disease outbreaks that are well documented, but not sort of understood or studied in terms of climate shifts. Our collaborators are Balaji and I am at Series. We also have Lori Hunter, who is a potential future. She works with human migration and sort of these large-scale demographic things. Center for Asian Studies, Behavioral Economics. This is an international collaboration with whom I've worked for the past few years. Some of the expertise that we need for this are sort of historical epidemiology and behavioral studies are some things that we are looking for some collaboration with. And this particular project would provide the pilot study required for some of these big grants, NSF, NIH, also Sociological Research Council, SSRC, and international grants like CARIA that focus on climate impacts and human dimension issues. And yeah, that's what I have. I don't know if I'm on time or not, but yes, I'm ready to take questions or any clarifications you may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and we are ready for questions.
What has my advisor said? Perfectly clear or perfectly unclear?
I guess I have a question. Are there any disease breakouts that you're looking at in particular, or any types of disease that you think will be most significant in years to come?
We do know that respiratory illnesses have been particularly common back in the day. For example, plague, also waterborne illnesses like we do know cholera has been one of the most persistent causes of disease outbreaks and deaths, and also malaria. I mean, British soldiers and administrators routinely talked about malarial outbreaks, and in fact, they developed some of the early quinine and things like that, particularly to combat those diseases. We also know that there are hospital records for other water and airborne illnesses, so we are wanting to look into all of those. Thanks, that's a good question.
Yeah. Are you connected with other groups on campus that look at access to clean water? I wonder if that would be also a good connection for you.
That would be a great connection. We are aware of groups, but we are not connected.
Okay.
But that's a good suggestion. I'll look into it.
Sure. Let us know if we can help.
Of course.
Thank you so much. That was a great presentation, and we will move on to the next one.
Norris, I believe that's you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Noris Figueroa. I am a new assistant professor at the Department of Physics in CU Boulder. And I would like to find a collaborator for a study of mucus inside our organisms. So mucus is a very slimy substance that covers our respiratory, digestive, and reproductive tract, and is the first line of defense against pathogens. So I previously demonstrated experimentally that if you mechanically shear mucus, some organization can emerge of it. So mucus is made of these long polymers that are called mucins. And if you stress them mechanically, all these mucins align and form a material that is anisotropic, kind of like a liquid crystal. And then bacteria swim along these lines created by the external shear in the mucus. So I suspect this is a mechanism for defense against pathogens. For example, bacteria would be forced to swim along this easy axis of the mucus instead of traversing the mucus barrier and arriving to our epithelial cells, let's say inside our guts or our lungs. So I want to study how this anisotropy emerges inside our organisms. It can be due to the flow that is created, for example, by the peristaltic contractions on our organs, or beaten by the cilia. So in our lungs, for example, there are many little hairs that beat together and they can clear our respiratory ways. And so that helps make this mucus become anisotropic. So I wanted to study how this anisotropy emerges and how it is important to keep us healthy. So my team has experience in hydrodynamics and the motion of active particles. So particles that can self-propel, like microorganisms. And we would need an expert in, let's say, life sciences that could help us either harvest mucus from lungs or the women's cervix, or, I don't know, digestive tract, for example, or either grow the mucus in our lab, grow the epithelial cells and the goblet cells that produce the mucus, and then we can perform experiments there. So funding can be from NSF or NIH, for example, understanding the rules of life, microbiome interactions and mechanisms. And I think this organization of mucus can be relevant to the distribution of populations of microorganisms inside our intestines, for example, and that would dictate how our microbiome is organized. So we could potentially do experiments looking at the microbiology of mucus, for example, actuating little magnetic particles by means of external magnetic field, or we could track cells that move inside the mucus and probably relate the anisotropy to the trajectory of microorganisms. So this has applications in, let's say, in improving human health. It can impact the way we treat infectious disease. For example, the colonization of our body by bacteria has to go through this mucus barrier, or many autoimmune diseases are linked to disorders in how our microbiome is organized, or what its composition is. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you so much. We'll take a couple minutes here for any questions.
Hi, Nerys. I'm Sean Davis from over in the School of Medicine. I'm just curious what your lab is doing now for modeling mucus.
So we were collecting cow cervical mucus so when they inseminate artificially the cow, and then performing experiments in microfluidic channels and see the invasion of bacteria. So in this picture here, you see the trajectories of some bacteria in mucus, and you see they swim parallel to each other. So the mucus is anisotropic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So since I moved to Boulder, we haven't started those experiments yet because I'm in the process of setting up the lab, but I'm looking forward to start them soon.
I don't have an answer for you. Sorry. just a question. Just questions. Yeah.
Nerys, this seems really, really interesting. Hi, I'm Kayla, by the way. I'm in the Chemical and Biological Engineering department, and I develop computational models of biological processes. So yeah, host defense against highly mutable pathogens like HIV and influenza, and look at how antibodies evolve. But I wonder if some kind of computational model could be developed to kind of look at this mechanism for defending against pathogens. That could be really interesting.
Maybe. So I think a very difficult problem, analytical difficult problem that is probably going to be easy to solve numerically, is to see how bacteria or other microorganisms, or it can be viruses, transport through a porous environment.
Yeah.
So it depends on the microreology of the environment, but yeah, crowded environments are mathematically complicated. But yeah, it would be good to talk more about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Very interesting work.
Thank you so much. We are going to, if there's no other questions, we are going to move on to the next slide, next presentation, which is Emily Gibson.
Hi, so I'm an associate professor in the Department of Bioengineering and a member of the neuroscience program at the Anschutz Medical Campus. Overall, the research objective of our work and what I myself am interested in pursuing is developing sort of a non-invasive optical interface that can perform very high-speed neural imaging over large brain regions, and with the ability to use optogenetics to manipulate brain circuits. And so my background is in optics and biomicroscopy. And so, so the goal is basically to develop some technique that could be used for voltage imaging because of the development of some of these new brighter voltage indicators and genetically encoded voltage indicators, which really opens up the potential to study these brain circuits in ways that haven't been done before. But some of the challenges are that a lot of these imaging techniques are just not fast enough to actually sample these voltage changes. And so this is really a challenge, I think, for the neuroscience community. The other challenge is basically to develop these microscopes and make them miniaturized so that you can actually mount them on top of different animals and then study these kind of brain circuits as the animals are doing different complex behavior tasks. So this is effectively some of the work that I would like to pursue. So basically we've kind of set up a number of collaborations between CU Anschutz and Boulder, and particularly around this area of neurophotonics. And so I'm listing some of the members of these collaborations. So these are existing collaborations where we have joint grant funding. But some of the, I guess, technical expertise that would be needed sort of includes computer science and computational imaging as a way to move these devices to higher speeds, electrical engineering to develop high-speed circuitry, basically any faculty who would have an interest in kind of joining this project, other engineering faculty that might have particular tools that would be of an advantage for this. So yeah, so I think, you know, we're very interested in pursuing this and finding other faculty in Boulder who would have an interest. So what do I say? So, I mean, I think that we're kind of at the point where we've established enough collaborations that we would like to form a research center. So the title of the talk is a CU Neurophotonics Research Center, which could really kind of span all of these collaborations between CU, Anschutz, and Boulder. And I think we could leverage this research center to acquire sort of more funding, particularly from, you know, the Brain Initiative, you know, and there's additionally, so NIH, NSF Brain Initiative funding, funding from private foundations who are interested in, you know, developing these centers that can really leverage engineering and developing new tools for neuroscience. Particularly this research center could also interface with industry, with the local photonics industry in Colorado. And we actually are working with a small business located in Denver, Colorado, called Intelligent Imaging Innovations. And there's quite a number of other local businesses. So it seems like we're kind of on the cusp of, you know, really building up something big. So, so yeah, I think that was all I wanted to say. So, yeah, and, you know, so on another approach, you know, we do develop a lot of imaging kind of tools. That might be something the previous speaker, so Nuris, would be interested, is kind of leveraging some of these new tools that we have available at Anschutz campus to do these types of studies. You know, for example, you know, we do super resolution and fluorescence lifetime imaging. So that's kind of another track that my lab is pursuing. So yeah, so I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Emily.
Hi, Emily. This is Natalie Surkova. So as you know, we have 9.4, obviously, right? As you know, we have 9.4 Tesla in vivo MRI, so which is a gold standard for neuroimaging. Do you think it will be useful for you to, for example, apply functional MRI to correlate your device?
Yes, and I really think that that's a really interesting thing to pursue. So there's only been a few labs that have kind of been combining optical imaging with more of the functional imaging. So you really get the benefit of optical imaging where you can study things at the cellular level combined with this functional imaging. And I do think that some of these techniques that we want to develop would be compatible for like being able to image this kind of global changes with MRI. And then
yeah, the problem is there's only like a couple of imaging centers worldwide who can do functional MRI. We cannot do it yet. It's only actually one in Singapore, one is in UC Davis. That's it. But definitely Diego's spoke with Diego, something to look, you know, into.
Yeah, and maybe we can expand, you know, from neurophotonics to just something, including all imaging, neuroimaging center. So yeah, I think we're welcome to, you know, try to expand this and grow this.
It's a very interesting technology for sure and very unique, what you're doing.
Thanks.
It's great talk.
I see a hand raised. Let's see if you have a question.
Hi. Can I ask a question now?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Hi, Emily. Thanks for the nice introduction. So my name is Gia Park in chemistry department. And I was looking to learn whether there will be any need, like from you or the center, whether the materials development side of it. It looks like, it sounded like to me that you're looking for someone who's good at like processing of the data, but would the center be interested in developing new materials for the photonic materials for this purpose?
Yes, definitely, for sure. So any kind of ideas on photonics approaches or development of sources that could be further miniaturized, you know, even materials for electrical combined optical and electrical readouts in the brain would be another area that would be really interesting to pursue.
Yeah, so a friend of mine works at Neuralink, and we had developed like conducting hydrogel material, something like that. And yeah, I was curious whether the center would be interested in like such direction as well.
Yeah,
well, good to know.
That would be really interesting. Yeah.
Right. Thanks, Emily. Yep, I'll follow you up.
I think I saw Sean unmute himself. Speaking of data, Sean, did you have a question?
Just a couple of comments. So in talking about imaging, I don't know if you guys are attached at all to or aware of the RAC, the Research Imaging Core. So Natalie's shaking her head because I think Natalie's part of that. There's an effort to build out capability to do cloud-based image analysis. And as a capability that you're lacking, but more as an opportunity to free your data a little bit and for much more facile collaboration. So I would say that this is like a pre-nascent kind of discussion, but Natalie, I think it sounds like could connect you up with that group.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Flywheel, Natalie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that would be great as well, because you know, once we kind of develop this microscope, we're going to get a whole lot of data out of it with these high frame rates.
And the other thing, go ahead, sorry.
No, Sean, go ahead, Sean, go ahead.
I was just going to mention that there's another image analysis group that's based in the School of Public Health, and so it might be worth reaching out at some point to bioinformatics and biostatistics, the Department of Bioinformatics and Biostatistics in the School of Public Health. They now have 3 or 4 people who are doing image analysis kind of work.
Oh, okay.
It's Debashish Ghosh, you surely know him. So it's absolutely, Sean is absolutely right. And you know, I mean, I don't know if you want to also expand into the brain cancer, because I know that you're very successful in securing funds from the NSF and NIH, but there's a huge group for the NCI, which exactly looks what you're doing. It's a developing of new tools and new technology for in vivo imaging, but not the whole, it's not what I do, not the whole body imaging. And actually one person right now, La Barbara, he is building an imaging center and he's submitting an NIH grant, NCI grant on the new imaging center. So I know it's not neuroscience, but brain cancer, it could be also neuroscience.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I mean, I think that, you know, this is kind of very early stage, but I think, you know, as we further develop this, it would be something we could translate into the clinic. Sorry, my cat's making a lot of noise. I have an old cat that's coughing up a hairball right now. That's a weird noise.
All good. Thank you so much, Emily. We are going to see, I think Karsten might be joining us in a little bit, and he might actually, we'll put Karsten on the end here. So if the next presenter is ready, I believe Chloe, you are presenting here.
Yeah, I can go. Thank you. So my name is Chloe Sigmund. I am a psychologist by training, and I am the research program manager at National Mental Health Innovation Center at CU Anschutz campus. And today I'm presenting on Mindful Moment, which is our digital live guided mindfulness program that we've developed. So our main objective in presenting today is looking for collaboration to help expand our program. So this is a program that was developed by NMHIC, and it was really in response to the negative impact of the pandemic on faculty, students, staff, and report of just negative, with the uncertainty of some people going back to work and some people working from home, and stress of all of the different transitions, just well-being taking a big hit and people feeling pretty disconnected. So based on the research supporting the effectiveness of mindfulness on well-being, as well as the support for effectiveness of digital delivery of guided mindfulness, we developed this program. And Dr. Deborah Belt and I are both psychologists with mindfulness background, and so we're the ones that lead the guided sessions. So we've collected some data so far. It was launched in September of 2020, and it started out as 5-minute sessions on Tuesday and Thursday mornings at 7:50, and then in December we expanded based on feedback from attendees for requests for more frequent and longer sessions. We collaborated with the School of Public Health to offer Mindful Moment Monday, which is a 15-minute session midday on Mondays. And so like I said, we've tracked a little bit of data so far, and we're really excited about kind of the initial findings that we have. So from a qualitative aspect, we've gotten a lot of feedback from across all faculty, students, and staff, the combination of all, of feeling more connected and feeling like the program has been helpful, a helpful resource just for coping and their well-being throughout all the stressors. And then in terms of engagement, you can see on this first graph, the bar graph, is the number of sessions attended per attendee. So you can see that most people attended somewhere between 1 and 15 sessions. And then the second graph, the line graph, is the number of attendees per session. So you can see that we had a peak right around the beginning of the rollout of the program, and then this other peak here is right around the time of the election and kind of onset of the holidays, imagining that as a stressful time for many people. And these data are represented through the end of December 2020, so you can see that there is a drop-off. This is right in the kind of thick of the holidays. And so this engagement data is actually really promising. The research on other digital forms of guided meditation shows high engagement initially with pretty steep drop-offs. And so the fact that we have been able to maintain fairly consistent engagement throughout several months of the program, and that we're getting requests for expansion from attendees, is something that we're really hopeful and excited about. And so in terms of expansion, we are looking to promote across CU campuses and just get more awareness and engagement. We're also extending the program to anybody who wants to register, so it's not limited to just CU affiliation. We want to expand the frequency of the sessions offered, so it's not just twice a week in the morning. We want to track data more longitudinally and a little bit, like kind of beef up our data tracking process so that we can start to look more at the effectiveness and impact of the program. And then we record all of our sessions and we post them on YouTube, but we want to expand our digital library through offering more sessions, more variety in terms of content, and then just more mindfulness resources that can be accessed online. So in terms of collaboration, NMHIC developed the Tech Innovation Network, or the TIN. So this is a formalized network of more than 100 campus and community partners. And in a general sense, our center works with different sites to deploy the technology to increase quality of mental health treatment and access of treatment. So we do things like implementing different mobile apps or VR, and mindfulness and meditation is definitely a part of this. And so part of our TIN actually includes campus partners already, and we have been able to deploy meditation through the TIN already with CAPS and with the CU athletics department. So we've already done some collaboration with CU Boulder, more looking forward to just leveraging our network and the collaboration to do more. In terms of expertise, as I mentioned, we do, Dr. Belt and I both have mindfulness training experience. And so as we're looking to expand leaders for more frequent sessions, we're looking for people or groups of people that have mindfulness background as well. And so far, the center has funded the development and launch of this program, but we are currently seeking funding to help us with the expansion. So another reason we're really excited about this program is because it's something that's a resource not just for students, but it's also for faculty and staff and even larger community beyond CU. And so we think that the program has the ability to make a pretty big impact. And so we're hoping that the expansion will reach a wider audience of people, and then that through offering more frequent sessions, we can increase the feasibility of implementation and decrease barriers. So if it's often more frequently, that would presumably increase the number of people that could figure out how to make it work with their schedule and decrease access barriers. As I mentioned, we also want to allow for a little bit more formalized outcome research and be able to track data over time so that we can begin to more directly explore the impact of the program from both quantitative and qualitative angles. And we're just hoping to be able to be in a position to continue this program as ongoing wellness support, both during the pandemic and then beyond the pandemic if the need is still expressed, which we think it probably is. That is all I had.
Thank you so much. And we'll take any questions.
So I'll continue asking questions. I like to do that. So does your IRB support working with patients or patient groups on the institute side of things?
So this study in particular, we have kept at a program evaluation level, so does not have any IRB attached to it. But we do have other research projects where we have used IRB successfully to work with our campus and community partners.
Are you partnering at all with the Atlas folks on the Boulder campus for virtual reality, augmented reality?
I actually don't know the answer to that. I believe that we have, but I don't actually know any more details. I think I'm fairly new to the center, so I think this was within the past year. So I think this is something pre-pandemic that we have met with them.
And then the last thing, have you thought at all about asynchronous? So you're putting stuff on YouTube, but have you thought about formally including asynchronous tracking of asynchronous use of your resources? My expectation is that there are a significant number of folks who actually wouldn't be comfortable being in a live session, but would be quite comfortable and find it quite valuable to work in an asynchronous, sort of personalized environment. And it'd be
Absolutely.
Track the differences. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really interesting question. So we do, and I didn't mention this, but we use Zoom webinar. And so it is something where people who join they're not able to see anybody besides the facilitator of the mindfulness. So there's a little bit of, I guess, privacy and like no one's on the screen that way, which we did with exactly that in mind, that people may not feel comfortable showing up, first thing in the morning and being on screen. And especially we ask people to close their eyes if they'd like to. And so we did take that into consideration, but absolutely, I think that's a direction that as we expand, we could look at the asynchronous and like the use of the guided meditation in a not live setting, but through the recordings. I think that would be really interesting.
Chloe, I had a question. Are you connected with the Crown Institute on the Boulder campus?
Crown Institute. Yes, we are. Okay.
Joanna Arch, I know she has expertise in mindfulness.
Dr. Belt knows Zona and has worked with her before.
Okay. Joanna might be a good connection as well.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll take note of that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
If there aren't any other questions, we'll move on here. And we have safety assurance for closed loop medical devices.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here. My name is Sriram Shankar Narayanan. I am an associate professor in computer science. And I'm going to be talking about some collaboration that has been ongoing for the last 5 years with people at the Barbara Davis Center for Type 1 Diabetes. So my research is on safety assurance. So I look at complicated software systems, especially software systems that interact with the physical world, and these are called cyber physical systems. And I'm really interested in how do we make these systems safe, and how do we protect people from software going wrong. And one example of this is the artificial pancreas, which is a class of medical devices called closed loop medical devices. So the artificial pancreas has an insulin pump that delivers insulin to a person with type 1 diabetes who needs insulin to keep their blood glucose levels under control. And it senses their blood glucose levels using something called a continuous glucose monitor. So the algorithm in the middle, which is the real thing that I'm concerned about, constantly senses these blood glucose levels and adjusts the insulin for the patient up and down to regulate their blood glucose levels. Now, this is safety critical because if the patient gets too much insulin, they can actually end up in coma or dying. So the margin of error here is really, really small. And these devices are much more complicated. You might think of a thermostat or a cruise control, but controlling a person's blood glucose levels externally is way more complicated than just regulating insulin. So a lot of AI or machine learning techniques have been used to make these devices richer, have more features, predict what the user is about to do and respond to that before they do that. But part of that makes it really hard to assure that these devices are safe. So our technical challenge has been studying machine learning techniques, especially techniques based on neural networks. For instance, it's well known that machine learning techniques can hide deep or very dangerous flaws. Just how deep or how dangerous has not really been appreciated a lot in this community that tends to use these techniques a lot. For instance, neural networks have been used very widely to model blood glucose levels and how insulin affects blood glucose levels. So the idea there is you gather data for a month from a patient and you would build a data-driven model, and then you would design a data-driven artificial pancreas just for that person that's very much adapted to their insulin glucose physiology. But the problem with these models is lack of interpretability. So for instance, in a recent analysis, we found to our shock that these models, even though they are accurate, they actually learn things that are completely wrong and completely dangerous. For instance, we saw that just off-the-shelf use of machine learning can actually produce accurate models that are very accurate in predicting blood glucose levels. But they actually learn that if you give the person more insulin, then their blood glucose levels will actually rise, which is exactly the wrong treatment to give. If a person is hypoglycemic, you don't want to go and shoot them full of insulin, they will just die. So these are dangerous models to be using in applications, and part of our work was trying to do a careful analysis and point these things out. So in terms of collaboration, this is an existing collaboration, especially with Dr. Greg Forlenza and Laurel Messer, who are both at the Barbara Davis Center. And part of the reason I'm here is I'm really interested in looking into other areas where I know that artificial intelligence is about to make a big breakthrough, especially in smart, quote unquote, smart ventilators and surgical robotics, where I believe there are lots of interesting safety assurance problems. So in terms of funding, which I did not mention, we've been funded by the National Science Foundation and the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation for the last 5 years or so. In terms of outcomes, we managed to take some existing commercial devices that got FDA approval back in 2018 and did an exhaustive verification, safety assurance of those devices, using mathematical models of how insulin affects blood glucose in people. We also started to look at learning safe neural networks. So neural networks that are not just accurate, but also have the right relationship between insulin and glucose, for example, and do not have any surprises hidden there that are biologically incorrect. a future application of this is looking at virtual clinical trials, which is if we can learn accurate and correct models from people like for a month or so, we could use these models to then look at future designs and see how these designs would likely fare on those individuals. And that could cut a lot of time in developing and going through the approval process for these devices. And last but not least, these devices can now be personalized. So for instance, how insulin affects blood glucose levels differs from person to person. There are lots of factors that affect that, and we could actually use machine learning to personalize these devices, but have them be safe at the same time. So that's all I had to say and I'm looking forward to your questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. We will take questions at this time.
Hi, Sriram.
Hi.
You guys can tell me to keep my mouth shut if you like, anytime, please.
Never.
Great questions. Keep them coming.
It's always interesting to see folks who bring like interpretation to machine learning models, because sometimes it is quite stunning to see what they actually represent. But I wanted to, you mentioned that you're looking for expertise, so a couple of potential resources. Are you familiar with CTSAs, clinical translational science, and I don't know what the A is for.
Institutes.
Yeah, so CCTSI is a part of the CTSA at Anschutz. What the CTSA is responsible for is basically ongoing clinical trials. And the person who runs the CCTSI, the informatics part, the medical informatics part, is a guy named Tellen Bennett. Tell's a pediatric intensivist. He works in the ICU. He's an MD. But this is the kind of stuff that he does for a research effort. They have tons of clinical trials data. So that would be retrospective. The other thing that is worth noting is that the university health system, the CU health system, has remote monitoring and internal monitoring capabilities. I don't know if you're aware of how those work, but essentially all the electronic devices in the hospital go back to a central sort of data clearinghouse. And so if you haven't talked to Steve Hess before, that'd be another good person to talk to. He's the Chief Information Officer for CU Health, or for UC Health. So Tell Bennett and Steve Hess.
Oh, thank you. Those are good leads. I'll look them up.
Thank you. If there aren't any more questions, we will move on to the animal imaging core.
Okay, Diane, and I just want to mention to Sriram that I can send him, because I'm with the CCTSI as well, I can send you the information and email and introduce you to Till, as Sean mentioned. It's a great connection. He is wonderful. Okay, it's my turn now. Okay, so I'm going to present animal imaging program, and even though we do have approximately 45 to 60 active projects going on every month. So because we are the only comprehensive animal imaging core in the Rocky Mountain region, so we do have pretty much everything you can even imagine for animal imaging. So our instruments are pictured below. So it's 9.4 Tesla MRI, as you can see, AISR, the bottom right corner, which stands for Animal Imaging Share Resources. We are a large facility, which is supported directly by the NCI, National Cancer Institute, and specifically operated by our cancer center, University of Colorado Cancer Center. The P30 grant, we do have a 9.4 Tesla MRI, the first picture. Then you see PET CT, SPECT CT for nuclear imaging and molecular imaging. The next one is the newest CT, and the last one is the IVIS, Spectrum IVIS, the newest one. I believe Boulder also has the IVIS 200, but it's a little bit older model what you have. So we do have pretty much everything. We also have an ultrasound. Yeah, I just did put it there. So, but today I'm going to present my own project, because as I said, we do have 42 to 65 users, collaborators who are using our resources, our like mini radiology mouse core. And today I'm presenting about my own research interest, neuro-oncology, specifically imaging high resolution brain tumors in mouse, in patient-derived xenograft models of pediatric brain tumor types. So as you can see now, the first picture, those are high resolution, around 40 microns in vivo images of the mouse brain with the implanted tumors. They are mostly located in the cerebellum region, because it's where the pediatric tumors usually come. And we have ependymoma, medulloblastoma, some rhabdoid tumors, and the fourth type is DIPG, which is a high-grade gliomas. And what we do, we acquire multi-parametric high-resolution imaging, including vascular imaging, edema, diffusion-weighted imaging, high-resolution structural imaging. We do all kind of computer modeling on this to do image segmentation, and this is what our collaborators do. And then just based on the image features, we try to classify the new image without knowing the background of the animal. So our team includes obviously our neuro-oncology team, which is led by Nick Foreman and Rajiv Vibakar at the Children's Hospitals, and many others, great pediatric neuro-oncologists. We're utilizing 9.4 Tesla MRI on those pediatric orthotopic mouse brain tumors, which the specimens are taken from our pediatric patients. And what we're really looking to expand, even though we do have already very strong data and putting together the first publication together, we're still looking for more deep learning, more specific algorithm to do those classifiers based on the multi-parametric MRI of the mouse brains. And we are supported by several NCI and NIH funds. All equipment is actually purchased through the shared instrumentation, high-end shared instrumentation grants, NSF, and we also just got some large, on Saturday, foundation grant from the Pediatric Neuro-Oncology Foundation. And yeah, so what is actually entitled for the precise post-processing artificial intelligence classifier is just, as I said, using our multi-parametric advanced fast imaging MAFI from a 9.4 Tesla MRI to do image reduction, image segmentation, feature extraction, and finally come up with a AI classifier. We are also looking to characterize the features for each specific subtype, such as edema, how inflamed the tumors are, specific subtypes, how well perfused, how disseminated they are. And the biggest picture is for the NCI, for an NCI grant submission in the future, is just to take those classifier as well as the new MRI protocols and translate them into our pediatric neuro-oncology trials, because we do try different treatment options for those kids. Those brain tumors are devastating. It's really heartbreaking. So the outcome will be application for preclinical imaging in translational neuro-oncology, neuroradiology. The impact will be advanced neuroimaging without big picture brain biopsies in children with devastating brain tumors. And we're also planning together with the electrical engineering department in CU Boulder and Cancer Center and the CCTSI, we're planning the so-called Ai2 workshop at CU Boulder. AI square stands for Animal Imaging / Artificial Intelligence in fall 2021. I do those workshops every year, mostly at the Institutes, and they are sometimes regional, sometimes national. The invited speakers are from all over the country. And last year we did it at the CSU just before the lockdown. So I'm really hoping to have this workshop in person. So not a Zoom workshop, because I think everybody is sick of the Zoom workshops at this time point. So I will definitely keep everyone posted, but yeah, fall 2021, hopefully AI square workshop at the CU Boulder. And I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Natalie.
Sure.
So if I may, this is really cool in terms of the application and the impact. So if you're looking for people with deep learning expertise, there is like really good news, which is a lot of these tools have become so much usable by, and so I'm very happy to connect you with even like PhD students who would have a lot of time and energy to try and get things working for you. So the expertise level needed there has definitely become more democratic. It's not completely like user friendly, but you know, if when you email me, I hope you do, and I'm happy to connect you up with people for that.
Absolutely, we can exchange. I will send you the CCTSI connection. You can send me the. I just want to mention to everyone, just to know, there's a lot of deep learning and AI obviously going in the human imaging. So it's probably the main area of application of the AI, right? It's medical imaging. The problem is there's only 1 or 2 publications like worldwide on animal imaging. And the main problem with the animal imaging is number of subjects, right? So if we're talking about brain tumor MRI in children's, we have data repository at the NCI, we have huge database. Is not happening with the, you know, with the mouse, you do N of 4 and N of 6 and you're happy, right? Not enough for the precise deep learning algorithm, but we're working on it. Our neuro-oncology team, I mean, they do all those models. They have like 300, 400 animals per, you know, per, I think it's very unique for Colorado. I mean, the PDX, pediatric mouse models is very established and probably known all over the country. So this is our advantage. We do have a lot of images from the animals. Thank you.
Hi, Natalie. This is Kayla Springer in CHB. I was just going to mention that I also do a little bit of deep learning, not in the context of imaging right now. It's using deep reinforcement learning, basically steering complex biological processes towards an optimal solution. A little bit different, but maybe some of those techniques could translate. And I also work closely with LL&L in California and a team there who are experts in deep learning and are developing these custom algorithms. So it's possible that we could maybe get something going between your lab and my lab and that lab if you might be interested.
Oh, absolutely. Just please email me and I will just send you a couple of DICOM as a format for the imaging, medical imaging data, and you can see if you would like to play with them a little bit.
That sounds great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. If there are no other questions, we will move on to Erin Willis.
Hello, my name is Erin Willis and I'm an associate professor in the Department of Advertising, Public Relations, and Media Design. And so I feel kind of like an oddball with all of you guys, but I'm a health communication researcher and I'm interested in online health communities. I look at peer-to-peer health communities that are absent of doctors and health professionals, and I'm interested in how then that patient communication, the user-generated content, can actually affect health behaviors and health outcomes. And so 1 in 4 people participate in an online community of some kind. Many health professionals, though, are super leery of patient communities because of misinformation and other barriers like health literacy. But there are examples in the health communication and public health, even the medical literatures, that these communities offer benefits like social support, increased self-efficacy, increased health literacy, but also patient involvement in decision-making. And so in my previous work, I examined arthritis communities, and this is kind of foundational work for our grant applications, but arthritis communities, I looked at arthritis communities for evidence-based self-management behaviors. There's a formal arthritis self-management program that was created by the CDC in partnership with the Arthritis Foundation. And it's a formal program usually delivered in person, but I thought most likely people with arthritis are discussing these things online. The topics range from, sleep, medication, diet and exercise, communication. Using triangulated methods, I looked at over 8,000 posts in 4 different communities, and it found that people were actually discussing these self-management topics from this formal health education class. And that just shows that people are interested in maintaining their health, but they're crowdsourcing information. It's very informal. So I've been working with 2 scholars from the University of Missouri, Kansas City, one in computer science, one in health communication. We're collaborating with some physicians of different specialties at Mayo Clinic and their community Mayo Clinic Connect. And so we're wanting to connect user-generated content with health outcomes. And so the project that I put on the screen today is we're trying to do a mixed methods approach, obviously, but my background, I'm a qualitative researcher primarily in methods like ethnography and textual analysis. So looking into these communities, learning the language of the patient, since this is a patient-centered care tactic. And so using qualitative research, we build a code book for the AI and the machine learning methods, some of which obviously you guys are experts in. We'll develop a model, hopefully, to administer self-management in these communities, make them more useful, informing precision medicine, and then also identifying misinformation and opportunity to correct that misinformation. But this project can inform online community moderation. We could integrate medical records so that physicians have more context at the bedside so they can help patients get more tailored care or more tailored strategies. These patient communities, it's my belief, they have the potential to be an extension of the healthcare system. There's little research, however, that shows the connection to health outcomes. And so we're missing that. We need people to add to our methods, adding methods, but also those that can help us conceptualize the linkage into health outcomes. And that's me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Erin?
Hi, Erin. I don't have a question, but I'm Jenna Reno. I also have background in health communication with the Department of Family Medicine, and I do a lot of work on health outcomes research and also stakeholder engagement, which I'm very interested in online communities as well as misinformation. So I'll send you an email. I would love to talk more.
Thank you so much.
And I would just like to add, I had, with Jenna mentioning the family planning group, there is the OVIA Health. I'm not sure if you're familiar. It's OVIA, and I can send you an email, but I think all CU insurance plan members have an option to download that app. Right now it's fertility, pregnancy, and parenting, and offered as part of the insurance plan. So I can send you that information. All right, and I don't see Karsten. So we'll probably ask him to record his, and we'll try to get his on the website if anyone's interested in seeing his presentation. And we can open it up for any more questions or comments for anyone on any presenter at this point.
This is Natalie, and I just want to mention, it seems like well, it's very reflective of today's situation in general. I think the artificial intelligence and all those, you know, high-level data analysis is very in demand for both campuses. So, and I think we all have our niches, and we also have our experts for this, but I think it would be great to just to bring it together to talk about this, because definitely, you know, we're producing all those data, and the informatics is probably something which needs to be incorporated nowadays almost in each and every study design.
All right, so Kristen, if you don't have anything else and there's nobody else in the audience that has questions, I put up the list here. If it reminds you of any questions. Otherwise, we will post this early next week. Please email me or Kristen if you would not like your video posted. And we look forward to being in touch. If you have any questions about AB Nexus as a whole, our website is up to date, and there's funding information on our grant cycle. Always here for any questions, and we want to thank our presenters again for taking the time to present and prepare a slide and staying on time here today. So with that, I will close today's Zoom presentation. And thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.